If you close your eyes and focus on your breathing, can you observe your thoughts? Can you observe the spaces between them? Can you feel the gap between your thoughts and yourself? My thoughts are sometimes sexist, misogynist, racist, homophobic, transphobic. But that doesn't mean that I'm any of those things. It does, however, mean that I live and exist within sexist, misogynist, racist, homophobic, and transphobic social systems. I'm not my thoughts, and I don't have to be identified with them. I don't have to assign value to them. We live in a society addicted to individualism, which means that imagining complex social systems that run through us and our actions, but are not us, has become increasingly challenging. We think that we can separate ourselves from the systems in which we are participating in. We even feel that we are above them, better than them. We are caught in a binary perspective that does not acknowledge the fluidity and change in all things. We fall for a self-obsessed version of well-being and spirituality that only leads to more disconnection between ourselves and others. There's a big difference between being connected only through yourself and being connected through others as well. This is all preset and must mean that we have to spend more of our time challenging the systems that govern us and perpetuate the notion of individual responsibility above systemic failure and accountability. When discussing masculinity, we are unable to distinguish between men as individuals and men as a category of people. This leads to patriarchy being unnamed as a social force in acts of oppression that are presented only as an individual's wrongdoing. And some men feeling like they're personally discredited every single time anyone speaks truth to the power of masculinity in our society. If we truly want to discuss masculinity, we need to discuss patriarchal masculinity. Masculinity is not evil. Masculinity within and under patriarchy is. Patriarchal masculinity is the problem. Assuming patriarchal masculinity as our identity is the cause. We believe in free will. We believe in autonomy. But are we able to observe our own thoughts and feelings before making judgments on them or acting upon them? Language has as much to do with creating reality as it has with naming it. By definition, patriarchy is dominance of a society by men or values that uphold such dominance. Masculinity is the characteristics that are traditionally thought to be typical of or suitable for men. Forcefulness, decisiveness, control, competitiveness, rationality, self-reliance. Social systems like patriarchy survive and thrive in their seeming invisibility. We need to name them. We need shared language for them so that we can see them and decide how we want to participate in them. So, tonight you walked in, presumably as yourself, sat down and observed the people around you, across from you. Did you perceive them as individuals or as an audience? I think that when we walk into a theater, there is a moment when we assume the role of an audience member, which changes the way we behave, sit, move, relate. Did that happen to you tonight? Let's see. There are expectations, social norms, and conventions to be followed, right? And let's remember that whenever we perform any role, we enter into a contract with whoever we're playing with. We request and require that they take seriously the impression that we are signaling. That takes a lot of effort. That is exhausting. And when performance is so clearly defined and laid out for us, being can be seen as messy, unpredictable, even feminine. But we do not have to perform to have value, and we can't always be performing. We need more space for being. We need to at least be able to dance between the two. In being, we can observe and wait and discover the changing reality of each and every moment. Lu, li, lu, lu, lu. Lam, do. Lam, lam. Lam, 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 Normality is a dangerous unreality. When things get repeated, they become habitual, set. At some point, they start feeling natural, normal, common, expected. Like they've always been there. Like that's how they're meant to be. Like there is no alternative. I don't trust normality. I'm afraid of it. I despise it. Patriarchy is a legacy handed down without consent. I am a white, straight passing man, and as such, I walk through social systems on predetermined paths of least resistance. Paths of least resistance are courses of action that are the easiest to do, ones that avoid tension, confrontation, unfamiliarity. And we all walk on them as quietly or as loudly as we want to. So, another way of thinking about them is to recall a moment when you were just going on about your day in public and suddenly something caught your attention. Maybe it was someone speaking loudly in an environment that should have been kept quiet. Maybe it was someone wearing something that didn't match with your expectations of the gender that you assigned to them. Maybe it was someone's choice of language in a conversation. These are all edges of already existing paths of least resistance. They trigger that uncomfortable, thick feeling of annoyance, maybe even anger. A feeling that tells you that you're approaching the edge with resistance. A feeling that tells you that something is outside of your already existing social norms. Because of my proximity to femininity when growing up, I thought that I internalized less of the patriarchal masculine standards than what would have been passed down to other men. But patriarchy gets handed down and passes through people of all genders. I just internalized my own version of it. Rage is the easy way back to a realm of feeling. There is so much potential for violence in men's bodies and communication. A group of men conversing and bonding loudly can at the same time feel like home, a place where you can truly be yourself from the inside, and the scariest sound and energy you can ever encounter from the outside. While growing up, I mostly observed what I considered as male bonding from the outside. I felt pretty much locked out of masculinity. The pull towards conformity was strong, but in the end, I think that I trusted my intuition, which questioned the way manhood was initially presented to me. I just wanted to find my own way into it. Social constructs are actually as flexible as we allow them to be. So, why is rage the easy way back into feeling? It's because within patriarchal culture, anger is the only emotion men are allowed to emanate. Anything else that would be seen as moving towards emotional complexity and openness is just too feminine, too unpredictable, too frightening. I'm not really able to get angry, and I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. I get triggered by public displays of anger, and I struggle to speak and process my fear. Men who are whole can speak their fear without shame. Let me say that again. Men who are whole can speak their fear without shame. as men, we are victimized by patriarchy and receive privilege from it at the same time. In order to objectify someone else, we first objectify ourselves in complete and utter silence. In this way, male privilege takes us further away from being, and it diminishes our ability to relate, to be intimate, to love. It obliterates our sense of self and brings so much pain that the only survivable option is to transcend above ourselves and others. Patriarchal masculinity means dehumanizing yourself before you dehumanize someone else. It means to be divided against yourself in such a way that the only thing you see is the desire to keep you from feeling and naming the pain you feel. None of this diminishes man's responsibility for the system of patriarchy itself or our actions within it. And we cannot separate ourselves from our privilege. We cannot exit or ignore patriarchy without allowing it to continue. We must dissolve it from its hollow and dark insides by first understanding how it functions and then turning its own lack of logic inside out. Patriarchal masculinity and the pursuit of it means no connection with the body, vulnerability, or emotions. It means to choose the role of performing masculinity over the need to be a whole feeling human. It means choosing manhood over personhood. Can we allow ourselves to admit that our beliefs and values are faulty? That they just don't make sense? We have built a society around the principles of control and domination. We have built a society around the principles of control and domination. We have built a society around the principles of control. We have used them as our primary forms of expression. A society around the principles of control and we have used them as our primary forms of expression around the principles of control and domination. We have used them as our primary forms of expression. We have severed the link between. We have used them as our primary forms between our thoughts and our emotions. We have severed the link between our minds and our bodies, between our thoughts and our emotions. We have severed the link between our minds and our bodies, between our thoughts and our emotions. We have severed compartmentalized between our minds and our bodies, between our thoughts and our emotions. We have severed. We have compartmentalized beings. We have compartmentalized our emotions. We have compartmentalized the being. I don't want to fear the loss of control. I want to welcome it. I want to welcome unknowing and be comfortable with it. I want to live it. I want to bathe in the reality that I do not hold the answers as an individual. The power of man is also the powerlessness of man to live fully. most men are deeply identified with patriarchy. And if they are to divest from it, they need spaces in which they can be vulnerable, spaces in which they can heal. Healing is a collective pursuit which does not happen in isolation, especially in a society where men are allowed to isolate themselves and where men of feeling are isolated from other men. If we as men are truly ready to let go of patriarchal masculinity, then we must do the painful work of mourning the loss of connection that we have lived through. I think that on a deep level, somewhere, we do know how meaningful relationships are formed. Even if we spend our lives convincing ourselves that a less vulnerable and scary way of existing and relating is around, it isn't. We have no choice but to practice unknowing, uncertainty, surrender, sustaining fear and uncomfortability, taking criticism wholeheartedly and embracing humility, play, being able to relate and respond rather than react. Being able to slow down. We need to ask ourselves, what would it mean to love masculinity in others? How would it feel to love masculinity in ourselves? I am committed to integrating all parts of myself. I am committed to integrating all parts of myself. I am committed to practicing integrity. I am committed to practicing integrity. I am committed to developing an emotional self. I am committed to developing an emotional self. I am committed to accountability for my actions. I am committed to accountability for my actions. I am committed to loving masculinity and manhood. I am committed to loving masculinity and manhood. I am committed to loving men. I am committed to loving men. I am committed to loving maleness. I am committed to loving maleness. I am committed to loving manliness. I am committed to loving manliness. I am committed to loving softness. I am committed to loving softness. I am committed to loving myself and my voice. I am committed to loving myself and my voice.
Yum.